restriction is only vis-a-vis opening of PPF account, and the restriction is only vis-a-vis opening of PPF account and its continuation after maturity. There is no mention about deposit, so one can freely deposit.
So that's what I will assume. And see, in any case, this is something where, assuming that you have not made the declaration and you deposited, the consequence, only consequence which I can think of is that the state bank or whichever bank, they may say that fine, after you have renewed or extended that account, we will not pay you any interest.
That is only the
That could be the only consequence.
Excuse me, if somebody is having a PF account, what should be done for it? Whether it needs to be closed? PF account.
PF account, to be honest, maybe you may need to check with EPFO, because those rules may be quite different than what they are for the PPF.
There is no bar on EPF.
Pardon?
There is no bar on EPF. There is no bar on
But PF account.
No, because see, in case of EPF, what will happen is, because you don't have an employer, then what happens? So that will be an issue, and there are rules like that if it is in less than 5 years, then you don't get that employer's contribution, and some such consequences may kick in.
EPF can continue only if you are employed in India under some employer. So as soon as you complete your employment over here,
Correct.
you can withdraw the money or you can get installments and pension.
Mm-hmm.
Pensions there is no bar. There is no measure of contribution because you are not an employee.
Correct.
But the basic amount is.
Yeah, that is you can either take it off in one shot or you could take it.
You can retain on.
Yeah. I would just like to add on the EPF fact.
You can use the mic. I think everyone can benefit.
I would just like to add on the EPF part. So since there will be no employer, so what the EPF rules say that you can either withdraw it, or if you are not withdrawing, you can still continue to hold it. However, you will be earning interest for a period of 3 years, after which the account will become dormant. So basically you stop earning interest after that.
Okay.
And if it is a permanent, you are planning to go permanently outside India, then after 3 years also you can still withdraw the funds. But only the consequence will be you will be stop earning interest after a period of 3 years, because the account automatically becomes dormant.
Okay. Then we look at shares and debentures. Basically, if they are in demat form, then you will need to intimate DP about the change in residential status from being a resident to a non-resident. And if they are in physical form, then you will need to intimate each respective company about the change in residential status. Then we come to proprietorship business. Now here, as such, the only consequence will be that there is a prohibition on carrying on of certain business activity by a non-resident, such as agricultural plantation business, real estate business, trading in TDR, then chit fund and Nidhi. These are the businesses or activities which cannot be carried on. So if someone is carrying on these activities, then obviously he cannot continue his business. So apart from that, there could be some other restrictions which may also apply. Now these restrictions, like section 3 of FEMA, puts a prohibition on a resident from making any payment to or for the credit of a non-resident. So assuming you have certain debtors, technically those debtors are prohibited from making such payment to you, but that's where the relevant regulations pertaining to carrying on of proprietorship or partnership business come in, and which permit a non-resident of Indian origin to, or that is an NRI, non-resident Indian citizen or a person of Indian origin, it permits to carry on the business except the activities which I have mentioned earlier.
What
So,
happens if they have an agricultural land?
So if he is holding an agricultural land as such, there is no issue. If he is trading in agricultural land, then there could be, as a business, there, or he is actually, say, carrying on cultivation, then there could be something which may be attractive, in the sense, at least he may need to intimate RBI about that. What is, and generally I think what RBI, the view that RBI appears to have been taking is that yes, this is something which you are carrying on earlier, so that you can continue to carry on, but like you cannot purchase any fresh land or carry on some other agricultural plantation business than this.
By continuing in this work, can he take a loan on resident?
See, as far as I think, let's go further. Some of these questions may be answered later on, because as per the time allotted to me, we are left with just about 15 minutes. Now we come to partnership business. So here again, similar prohibitions apply. Prohibition on business activity that can be carried on by firm. So they are agricultural plantation business, real estate, trading in TDR, chit fund, nidhi, etc. So these are the prohibited activities. So if a partnership in which the non-resident is a partner is carrying on this, then that is something which may not be possible henceforth. Second requirement is that the firm will be required to deposit the share of profit of a non-resident partner in his NRO account. In the sense that simply crediting it to his capital or current account in the books of the firm will no longer be workable or possible. As far as insurance policies are concerned, the non-resident can continue to hold those policies. As far as the residential property is concerned, he can continue to hold as well as freely transfer it. As far as commercial property is concerned, again, he can continue to hold and can freely transfer. As far as agricultural or plantation property or farmhouse is concerned, he can continue to hold. Now, when we come to transfer, there are another aspect that we need to look at. Is he an Indian citizen or he is a non-Indian citizen? So if he is an Indian citizen, he can transfer that agricultural plantation property only to a resident. And if he is a non-Indian citizen, he can transfer that only to a resident Indian citizen. So this is something which may need to be kept in mind. As far as the liabilities are concerned, there is no effect on the borrowings which are made when resident. And now I think the next bullet answers the question which was there. As far as a non-resident is concerned, the real restriction that is being faced is by the lender. So it is, if the lender wants, in respect of existing borrowing, there is no issue. But if it is renewal of existing borrowings or existing loans or fresh lending, then the lender will face the restrictions, and it may be possible only if the relevant notification, that is notification 4, permits so.
Sometimes the lender doesn't want to renew it, but the one who is borrowed is not in a position to pay. Still the lender is under difficulty?
Yes, because then in that case lender will have to specifically seek approval of RBI. Now when he goes to RBI, obviously he will mention that my borrower is facing difficulty. RBI will want to know that how do I believe you? If he is facing difficulty, what efforts have you made to recover? And what answer will he give? Because then he will have to have correspondence. He will have to show that he has been instituting or taking legal action against that borrower. So then that is something. Now most of the situations that we come across, they are all kind of, if I may say so, artificial inability to pay or sham. So those are the cases where it will not be possible for the lender to establish his own bona fide in not able to recover the borrowings. Now we come to the second part of transition where a non-resident becomes a resident. Now here we have a mirror provision to the general permission which was there in subsection 5 of section 6, and here it is subsection 4 of section 6. So this general permission permits a non-resident, a resident who was a non-resident earlier to hold, own, transfer or invest in foreign currency, security or immovable property that was held or owned by him when he was a non-resident. And as I said, the scope of this provision also is wider in the sense a resident can continue to hold the foreign currency, security or immovable property if he has received it by way of inheritance from a non-resident. But then, because we are dealing with transition, I have only extracted the provision that is relevant to the transition aspect. Here again, we come to bank accounts. So he can continue to hold the bank accounts. Now, often the issue comes up about income from the foreign investments. So he can deposit the income from the foreign investments in his foreign bank accounts. He can use the funds in his bank account, in his foreign bank accounts to invest outside India. As far as the shares and debentures are concerned, he can continue to hold them. Then comes the business. So the proprietorship business, he can continue to carry on the proprietorship business, but here one needs to bear in mind that such continuation will be subject to host country restrictions, such as local person requirement, because there are several countries which require that for any business to be carried on, there has to be a local person. So if a country or the host country has such requirement, then that may be a difficult proposition. However, practically, what we have observed is it is very difficult to manage or operate a foreign sole proprietorship business, because the definition of resident in FEMA in section 2B includes a branch, etc., whether it is branch, office, agency, etc., which is owned or controlled by a resident. So that is treated as a resident. Now, though it may say branch, argument may be that there is no branch because that itself is my principal business. But if it is a sole proprietorship business, then the owner is a resident. So whatever establishment is there can be treated as a branch. So for that reason, practically it is difficult to continue a sole proprietorship business outside India, because in that case that business will be treated as a resident, and potentially, or all those restrictions that apply to a resident under FEMA can apply to that business also. So which may make its working very difficult. The operations or management very difficult. Now as far as profits are concerned, yes, he can retain or reinvest profits outside India. Now we look at the partnership business. So he can continue to be a partner in the partnership, and again this is subject to any other requirements of the host country. Compared to proprietorship, it is much easier to manage or operate since FEMA treats partnership under section 2U of FEMA. Section 2U of FEMA defines a person, and a person among the various entities that are covered, a partnership also is treated as a person by itself. So because of that, the partnership will be treated as a non-resident, and the no restrictions under FEMA should apply on that partnership. He can retain or reinvest his share of profit outside India. In fact, there is one caution which is generally there, which I have put it under the pointers, so that we will, when we come to that, because that may have a relevance to this partnership also. Now we look at life insurance policies. So you can continue to hold them if those policies were issued when he was a non-resident, and the only requirement is that if premium on those policies were remitted from India, then the maturity proceeds or the claim payments will have to be repatriated to India within 7 days. Now here we could have a situation where somebody has taken out policy when he was a non-resident. The policy is for say 20 years, of which he was a non-resident for say 17 or 18 years out of that, and he paid premium also for that 17 or 18 years out of his foreign bank accounts. Then he returns to India, and thereafter he pays premium from his Indian funds. So he remits the premium on those policies from his Indian funds. Obviously, he has done it only for 2 or 3 years, but the provision does not say or make any exception. So even if he has remitted that premium for 1 year, there is every possibility that this provision will apply, and then he may be required to bring in the entire maturity amount to India. So that's a care which one may have to take when a non-resident particularly is becoming a resident, that he should ensure that he should make or keep adequate provision in his foreign bank accounts for, or rather to ensure that he has adequate funds lying there for at least payment of the premium for the subsequent period. Here again we have general insurance policies. The provision here is similar to that in case of a life insurance policy. So I will not go into detail on that. We'll come to immobile property. Again, because of the general permission in the section 6.4, he can continue to hold that property. Now, section 6.4 is a general provision, and it permits own transfer in West. So, as such, it should be possible for somebody to claim that yes, I can transfer under section 6.4. However, then we have a separate or a specific provision, or that is notification 7 of FEMA. Now that FEMA 7, it specifically mentions that a person cannot transfer any immobile property outside India, and the only exception is made in respect of a gift to a resident relative. So practically, it may not be possible for him to transfer except with prior approval of RBI. As far as liabilities are concerned, there is no effect on borrowing which is made when he was a non-resident, but he cannot renew the existing loans post maturity or take fresh loans. Now we look at the pointers. As I clarified earlier, these are merely pointers, so I would not really be going into the specific aspects of that. The idea is that just to ensure that one does not miss out on these aspects. So first is the gold and jewelry. So when a person is going out of India, he may need to declare the gold and jewelry that he is carrying, or somebody who is coming into India will also need to declare. A related aspect is that of the custom baggage rules. Similarly, transfer of residence rules, and these rules keep on changing frequently. So whatever is applicable at that time. Then comes the NRE account deposit. Now here, section 10(4), clause 2 of Income Tax Act has a provision which grants exemption in respect of interest on NRE account deposits. So the issue is, what happens if a person becomes a resident? Now there, the relevant requirement is that he should be for this exemption to apply, he should be a non-resident. Now, he will become a resident maybe in 2 years. So thereafter what? So that is where section 115H of the Income Tax Act may come to the rescue, because it allows concessional treatment, or it states that the concessional treatment will continue until transfer or conversion, and that conversion is otherwise than by way of transfer into money. So because of this, it may be possible to claim that the concession under section 10(4)(2) should continue till the deposit matures. So assuming if someone is returning, then prior to his return, if he places a deposit, NRE account deposit for say a period of 5 years, then it should be possible for him to continue to claim the exemption for the entire period till the deposit matures. And for the purpose of section 115H, it mentions certain kind of assets, foreign exchange assets. In respect of this, it applies. Section 115C clause F defines foreign exchange asset, and subclause 3 thereof includes deposits with an Indian company which is not a private company. So basically, for that reason, this should be possible. Wealth tax, of course, section 6 of Wealth Tax Act says assets and debts located outside India of a non-Indian citizen, individual or HUF, or not resident or not ordinary resident are not subject to wealth tax. So that is something which may be available only till he is resident but not ordinary resident. Now, one possibility which I am mentioning here, but again, there is something, as we see, that every time there is some dangerous stunt which is happening on Khatro Ke Khiladi, Rohit Shetty always cautions that don't do it at home. So similarly here also, one may need to work on this with extreme caution, because in practical scenarios we have often seen cases where just because someone was trying to save on the taxes, he has totally lost out on the corpus itself. So that is so in case of offshore trust structure. So if an offshore trust structure has been established while he was a non-resident, then it may be possible for him to, possible for the resident who was earlier a non-resident to save or to avoid payment of tax, whether income tax or wealth tax, on the assets or the income arising from those assets, if that income arises outside India. And the lastly, avoid controlling entity from India. Now there is the possibility which I mentioned when I said that in case of partnership one needs to be careful, because if it can be shown that the partnership is being controlled by a resident, then there is a possibility that that partnership may also be treated as a resident. And the same possibilities that may that could apply in case of a resident, or rather the restrictions and apply in case of a resident could apply to that partnership. So with that we come to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
You mentioned non-resident or resident. The status needs to be informed to the various bank or depository.
Yes.
If this is not informed, then what happens and what is the period in which it is required to bill?
So as such, there is no period, and when there is no period which is mentioned, I would believe it will be reasonable period. Now, as far as the consequences are concerned, again, as such there are no consequences mentioned, but because that could as well be treated as a wrong declaration because you have not made the proper declaration on that ground, because obviously you have not made any declaration as such. The issue will come up. What will happen? Let's say you receive income on those investments. Because you have not declared, you don't have an NRO account. Because you don't have an NRO account, how will you be able to remit that? Because what is permitted is only remittance from an NRO account. So that is where indirectly your interest may suffer.
When you convert one foreign asset to another, do I need to, like when a person who is a resident, who is earlier non-resident, and he's holding, let's say, share in another country, and he convert that shares in another property or another share, can he do that, or he have to bring that money back?
See, as such, if we strictly look at the section that is 6.4, it doesn't give specific permission. But I think the intention of RBI is that yes, you can continue to have, you can continue to operate or work with your foreign assets in the same manner in which you would have continued if you were a non-resident. That is what the intention appears to be, and I believe this issue has been discussed with them in the past informally. And they have said that as far as we are concerned, we don't see any issue here. Because, it was quite some years ago, and I think, because I had discussed it with Naresh Ajwani, and I think RBI's response was that where is an issue that you are looking at? Because as far as we are concerned, you can work with that in any manner. We have already said transfer or invest.
Sir, in the last slide you have mentioned transfer of residence rules.
Yes.
Under what law are these rules?
These are the customs act. The baggage rules as well as transfer of residence rules. Because transfer of residence rules, I believe they require that person should be a non-resident for a continuous period of 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. Before I request Mr. Nitin, one announcement. After this vote of thanks, there is no break and the session continues. There will be only change in the times. And I request Nitin to propose a vote of thanks.
Dear all, I hope all you are agree that change of residential status of a person in FEMA could become so important and could have so much dimensions over here. I would like to share with you one small practical example with me. One of my client become a non-resident. He continue his domestic account for 1 year. When he met to me, I give my opinion that you should convert your account into the NRO account. We approach to the Reserve Bank for compounding. Reserve Bank say, first take post facto approval from the FID section, then we will convert it. We go for post facto approval, then FID section says, take a certificate from the banker that you have not made any debit or credit entry in contravention of FEMA. So we take a certificate from our banker that we have not made any debit or credit entry in bank account against the NRO, or which is not supposed to do by the NRI. Then we are not sent for compounding. So this is one of, I would like to say that how deep root is the residential status is there. And I would like to thank